We start here tonight. Delighted to be back with the president of the University of Nebraska, Ted Carter. President, thank you so much for spending some of your time with us. I hope you had a nice Memorial weekend, and I'm sure for you and your long service to our country, which we thank you for, a Memorial weekend has to have a very special meaning to you.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, it always does. It's a time for us to reflect and thank those that paid the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy in our country. And I had some time to think about that, especially those that I served with in the past.
Were you in Lincoln, or did you do some traveling over the holiday weekend?
I was fortunate enough to fly on a commercial airline back to the East Coast, see some family back there, and came back here to Lincoln. So I got to experience that, and it was done safely and appropriately. So, but I'm glad to be here in Lincoln.
Well, very good. I'm glad you made your way back, and we're glad you're back here in Lincoln with us here tonight. Let's begin with some news that you had. You've rolled out regarding online tuition at the University of Nebraska. You've reduced costs for Nebraska students and streamlined tuition rates across the campuses. Can you tell us about the thinking behind this decision?
Well, as you've highlighted on this program, I've been given the opportunity to speak to. We opened up Nebraska Promise, which is about affordability and accessibility for lots of students out there. We froze tuition for 2 years. And now this new piece, a review of our online cost per credit hour to match for our in-state students to be the same price tag, whether you are attending on campus or online. We recognize that there will be some small percentage of students that for whatever reason won't come to campus, whether they're thinking about a gap year or they just want to stay maybe closer to home, which is far away from Lincoln, but still in Nebraska. So we wanted to price that just right. We didn't see a reason to have two different price tags, and we're seeing great results from that.
President, if someone takes that route for a while but then wants to eventually get to one of the campuses, what plans does the university have to kind of help that transition?
Yeah, it should be completely transparent, whether you take your first semester or your first year with online courses, all those transfer to our campus. And of course, you could go from one campus to another. So it could be completely streamlined. You still be on track to graduate in 4 years or 5 years, whatever suits you and the credits you take per semester. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible to either be working remotely or on campus.
You made the announcement earlier this month that you expect to be open in the fall. How are preparations going to meet that goal?
Well, first, I'm just going to say how proud I am of our chancellors, our senior administrators, our faculty. There are task forces that have been formed on every campus looking at the details for how to do this. We're working extensively with our Global Center for Health Security and our University of Nebraska Medical Center friends, and we're working through a very advanced checklist for how to do this. So I'm optimistic that we're thinking through as many details as we can, from how to go through testing, contact tracing, the social distancing that we're going to need on our campuses, classroom sizes, using every avenue we can to keep our faculty and our staff and our students safe, but yet do the academic mission in person.
I'm visiting with Nebraska President Ted Carter here on Sports Nightly on the Husker Sports Network. You've had a month full of announcements, the Nebraska Promise, which will go out to support low and middle income students, a 2-year tuition freeze for starting in the fall for all students, the online tuition rates, which we just referenced a moment ago. Last time we talked, you mentioned you're seeing an impressive bounce in applications in tandem with all these announcements. Has that trend continued here as we get to the latter stages of May?
It has. It's rather impressive. In fact, I'm not sure too many campuses, if any, certainly of our size, in the Big Ten or elsewhere, are seeing the type of bounce that we have. From about 4.5 to 5 weeks ago, when we first initiated Nebraska Promise through all of those initiatives that you just outlined, we've seen north of a 12% increase in applications. Now, the extension of the federal assistance for federal aid being extended to 1 June was done in concert with that, with all our applications. So we've seen well over 1,600 new applications to come to our 4 campuses. At some of our campuses, Kearney and Omaha, there's some of the highest application numbers we've seen in 4 years. So very excited about that movement. Now we just have to finish and not worry about freshman melt, which is that phenomenon where people apply, get accepted, but then make a change in their decision. So right now, everybody in Nebraska is an enrollment officer, every faculty, every administrator, our board of regents. And I would tell all our listeners, talk to your friends, those that are thinking about coming to our campus. If they've applied and they've been accepted, this is the time to come to University of Nebraska.
Well, that's fantastic. We have heard some schools in the state, schools around the country, President, that have said that they're going to maybe start the semester a little early so that they can wrap things up by Thanksgiving and not have students go home for Thanksgiving, come back, maybe try to beat the height of the flu and virus season. Have you had any thought to that at all?
Well, absolutely. We've been taking a look at it. We studied it. I'm going to be putting a proposal in front of our board of regents here very soon, and we'll be ready to make an announcement. And again, anything we do with our academic calendar would be done with the safety of our students and our faculty and staff first. And I think we'll be looking at what the right type of academic calendar is for the future. So there's lots to look at there, and I'm excited that we may be able to do something smart for our students.
You have certainly been out in front of this thing from the get-go, and I know last week you had a chance to be a part of a national panel with some of your peers to trade ideas back and forth. Did you glean anything from that? And I'm sure people were certainly interested in hearing what you had to say, all the things that you've done in the last 2 months.
Well, Greg, it probably wouldn't surprise any of our listeners to know that there's really kind of three types of people that react in a crisis. Those that kind of wish it away and don't really take much action, those that are kind of frozen in action, and those that are proactive and think about providing solutions. And as I've said before, I'm so proud to be in Nebraska State where people are solution-minded. They don't just stare at a problem and wonder how to think about solving it. So I talked about how we're preparing to solve it. I found what I said to be in contrast to some of the other major university systems across the country. Some are going to stay working remote with their students for the entire fall. They're even thinking about extending that into the winter months. We're doing this appropriately, safely with data, and we've gotten a lot of response to that. In fact, we've seen major colleges and universities, even at the Ivy League level, ask for our checklist for how to open because they want to do the same thing, but they want to know how we're doing it.
President, I know you've been in constant contact with the governor, Pete Ricketts, and he recently announced the results of a statewide business survey, and I don't think any of the results surprise anybody how much this virus has impacted businesses around the state. The university has been a key partner in working with this. What specifically has the role of the university been to try to help businesses recover from this pandemic?
Well, we're involved in just about every aspect, from helping small businesses reopen to providing survey data that will help inform the governor on what his decisions help the chambers of commerce across all of the entire state. Also work our extension and work with the farm and agriculture community. So we're involved in just about every aspect about how not only we're going to reopen, but how we're going to recover. And again, I'm very proud to say that here in the state of Nebraska, as you look at unemployment rates that are, exceeding probably near, almost depression level from the 1930s, in some states near or at 20%. Here in Nebraska, we're closer to that 8.2, 8.3% of unemployment. It just tells you how dedicated the state is and how hard the governor's working to keep our state open and get to being more open. And we'll bounce back. It might take a little while, but we're here to help in all aspects of that. As we've talked about before, the university is such a big economic driver. I won't say that we're not aware of how important it is for us to not only deliver our academic mission, but when we're open and we can deliver that type of economic impact to the entire state, $4.5 billion just last year, it's important for us to stay vibrant.
On a lighter note, I was told that you're going to be giving the commencement address to your high school, the class of 2020 in Burrowville, Rhode Island. Have you finished the speech? What are you going to try to get across to these 18-year-olds finishing up their high school careers?
So I graduated Burrowville High School in 1977. It's a very small town, 12 by 12 square miles. My graduating class was about 198 young men and women. And I remember like it was yesterday. And what I'm going to tell them is something that I think is relevant to today. No one can predict the future. The class of 2020 is certainly more resilient than most high school or college classes that have gone through this than any classes before. And I think what I would tell them, what I've learned over the years is, nothing will ever happen exactly the way you script it. And when one door closes in your preparation for your professional life, be ready to go through a different one and embrace that, and things will work out.
Well, very good. I know it'll be a speech, a memorable one for all of them. They're very lucky to have you be able to do that. President, we thank you so much for spending some time. Glad you had a safe Memorial trip back east. We're glad to have you back in Nebraska, and we'll speak again here in a couple of weeks. Is that okay?
Yeah, very good, Greg. Thanks.